Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're at. Thank you for joining me for this live today. We're going to be talking about warm-up and cool-down routines, and I'm going to share my thoughts on how to best put those together and my favorite warm-up and cool-down routines and how I like to structure my warm-ups and cool-downs for my workouts. So we'll give it a minute or two, let some people pop on here. When you're here, say hi. Let me know you're watching today. And thank you for being here. It's almost Halloween for those of you who celebrate. If you've got a cool costume idea, let me know what you're dressing up as. I don't have any costume ideas because I'm likely not going anywhere to dress up. Although we do have our upper body and core workout tomorrow, so maybe I can dig something out of my closet to make up a costume for the workout. It'll be extra bonus points if you wear a costume to join me for that workout tomorrow. Okay, so today, warm-up and cool-down routines is our topic. This was a requested one from last week. I figured it was a good one to do and answer some questions about. People often seem to have questions about what's the best warm-up, what's the best thing to do for a cool-down. So we're going to dive into that today. So we'll start with why are warm-ups and cool-downs important. So for the warm-up specifically, this is a way to prepare your body for what it's going to do. It's a way to check in with your body before you begin your workout to see how you're feeling, to see if there's any adjustments you need to make, to see how your energy level is, check in with any aches and pains that you're experiencing. Doing a warm-up is a way to improve your performance, to reduce your risk of injury, to get your mind right, and as I said, to tune into your body. That's one of the most important parts, in my opinion, of the warm-up, is tuning into your body and doing that check-in. So using that time to just kind of assess how you're feeling today. It can also be a way to, if you're not feeling especially motivated to work out, if you start that warm-up, sometimes, at the end of the warm-up, you're like, okay, now I'm ready to go. It can be a way to check in. Or you do the warm-up and you're already feeling exhausted. It could maybe be a indicator to skip that workout, take an additional rest day. So again, checking in, tuning into the body. The cool down. Now the cool down is something I think people skip more than the warm-up. And here's why the cool down is important. Even if it's not especially long, it's important because it returns you to a parasympathetic state. So your nervous system, there's kind of two different states, kind of this fight or flight type of idea. Like fight or rest, like these opposite ends. So you're either in the sympathetic state, which is when your adrenaline is up, which is when you're kind of ready to fight, when you are ready to get amped up or do a workout or go on a run, okay? And then there's the parasympathetic state, which is when you are in your kind of rest and digest, rest and relax state. So the warm-up, the idea of the warm-up is to get your system kind of into the sympathetic state, and the idea of the cool down is to get you back into the parasympathetic state. And this is important because it's going to aid in your recovery, in getting you back into a place where you can start to recover for your next workout. If you don't do a cool down and you go right from your workout, like you were doing something intense, your heart rate's up, you go right from that workout, you jump into the rest of your day, you go right into a work meeting, you're still going to kind of be in that sympathetic state, which again is a useful state for certain things, but it might not be like the calm peace of mind that we want to have when we're moving into the rest of our day or if we're moving into a meeting. So the cool down helps us kind of come back down, okay? It encourages the rest and recovery. It's going to kind of recalibrate you for the rest of the day. And again, help you tune into your body after the workout, which can be really useful as well to see, how your body's feeling at the end of that workout and checking in with some of those things that you checked in with during the warm-up. How's my body feeling today? How's it feeling now after the workout? How's my energy? How are those aches and pains I was experiencing earlier? South to West, I see that you said you used to ignore warm-up and cool down, but now you know better. Yeah, I think as we get older, it becomes more and more important to incorporate those warm-ups and cool downs. And it doesn't necessarily, neither one needs to be like super, super long. If you don't have a ton of time, you could do a few basic things just to ensure that you do incorporate some of those elements of the warm-up and cool down. And I do think it becomes more important. It also depends what type of workout you're gonna do. If you're gonna do a quite like intense workout in that it's either high intensity, like you're moving very quickly, or you're gonna be lifting very heavy, the warm-up, like what the warm-up is gonna become a little bit more important, and you may want it to be a little bit longer. Versus if your workout is fairly gentle, it's like an easy to moderate workout, you may not need as long of a warm-up. So for example, with a lot of the workouts that I do based around kettlebell solo exercises, they're not necessarily very intense workouts. So I don't always need a very long warm-up because my workout will kind of warm me up slowly as I go through it. So it also depends there, like which type you're doing. I have to be honest, sometimes I do skip the cool down, even though I think it is very important. It just depends on what I have time for, but I feel so much better when I don't skip my cool down. So that's that. So we're gonna talk a little bit more specifically now about the components of a warm-up and components of a cool down. And as always, if you have questions while I'm talking about this, feel free to drop them below. I'll be happy to answer them. And let me know if you're dressing up for Halloween tomorrow and what you're dressing up as. Oh, and let me know if you got any costume ideas for me. Okay, so components of a warm-up. So as I mentioned before, the warm-up is going to take us into that sympathetic state. So that means that we're kind of exciting the nervous system and getting ready to do what we're gonna do, to do this activity that we're gonna do. So we want to get the heart rate up, we wanna warm up the body. So initially, maybe there's a little bit of just basic movement to kind of get that heart rate up and start to warm up the body. Then there's different things that you can incorporate into a warm-up. So the warm-up, I feel like there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. Again, it depends what you're working on in your actual workout. So I almost always incorporate some kind of joint mobility. And that simply means like moving the joints through their range of motion. For example, I often start off with neck. So I'll do a few just gentle exercises to kind of check in with my neck. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to hold tension in my neck, and I have had a neck injury in the past, so it's a place I kind of like to check in and see how it's feeling to make sure I don't have any really intense spots of tension that I want to maybe look out for during my workout. As well as that joint mobility is, again, it's a way to, that checking in with the body, you're kind of checking in with the different joints. Okay, how are my wrists feeling today? Okay, how are my shoulders? You know, how's my back? How are my hips doing? Okay, so you get to kind of go joint by joint, and you don't necessarily need to go through the entire body. You may base it on, again, if you're doing an upper body workout, maybe just do a few upper body joint mobilities. If you're doing full body, maybe you just pick and choose a few that work for you that day. So joint mobility is something that I usually incorporate into every warm-up. Then you could use the warm-up as a time to work on mobility. Okay, so joint mobility is one way to start to get in tune with your mobility, but working on either isometrics for your mobility or other specific exercises that improve your mobility, and that may be based on your individual needs. So you may be doing the mobility that you need, like if you're trying to work on getting a better overhead position, getting better shoulder mobility there, maybe you do a couple exercises for your thoracic spine and for your shoulders. So you could tailor that to your specific needs. Something else that you could add into your warm-up is muscle activation. So something I like to do if I know I'm gonna do a pretty big lower body day is I'll often do some band stuff to kind of activate my glutes, because I feel like that's helpful for me to get the most out of the lower body exercises. Then the warm-up could also be a time to work on technique. So you can work on, like for example, for kettlebell sport, any kettlebell sport athletes that are watching, your warm-up is a good time to get the heart, like for example, you could combine the getting the heart rate up and warming the body with some technique practice with a light kettlebell. So that could be a great way to incorporate that into your warm-up, make sure that your whole entire workout doesn't take too long. The other thing, prepping for specific movement. So that's something else I almost always incorporate into my warm-up. If I'm going to be doing goblet squats, I'm usually doing body weight squats in my warm-up. Getting your body ready for the specific patterns that you're going to be practicing that day. And then there would be like ramping up to the load you're going to be working with. So if you're going to be lifting something fairly heavy, like if you're not just sticking with light or moderate weight, but you're going to be pushing your weight a little bit, you may want to ramp up to your working load. I see Jepper 1969, you said when you lift something heavy, you always, I assume you're saying you always warm up. When you're lifting heavy, it's good to like ramp up to your load. So for example, say my working load on a goblet squat, I'm going to use a 24 kg bell today, but I don't necessarily want to go from doing a body weight squat right into a 24 kg kettlebell or 53-pound kettlebell. Be kind of too big of a jump. So maybe after I finish my general warm up, I'll do a couple sets of maybe I'll do some squats with a 12 kg kettlebell, with a 16 kg, with a 20 kg, just a few reps to kind of prep my body for the working set. So that may also be a part of your warm-up. Hi, Gavin. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so hi, Abby. Thanks for being here. So the warm-up, so as I just mentioned, there could be, you don't necessarily need to include all those components I just talked about. It may vary, again, depending on your workout, or maybe one day a week you do one thing, the other day of the week you do this other part, so you don't necessarily need all of it. But I would say your warm-up in general, it needs to get your heart rate up and a little bit, like just kind of elevate the heart rate a little bit and warm the body, and then maybe prepare you at some level for the workout that you're going to be doing. Okay, so for our cool down, hi Sebastiano, ciao, thanks for joining. Let me know if you have any questions about warm-ups and cool downs today. Hi Gavin, I'm discussing warm-ups and cool downs for, in general, strength training workouts. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Or if you have any questions about kettlebells or fitness in general, happy to answer those for you. Okay, so if you do say inappropriate things about my body, you will be blocked immediately. So if you're thinking about doing that, just don't. Save yourself the trouble. Okay, so for our cool down, hey Abby, you didn't, I'm still talking about warm-ups and cool downs. I'll review what I went over at the beginning because there was only like 2 people here, but I'll go over it again in just a moment. So some components of the cool down that we want to include. So with the cool down, we're trying to take ourselves into the parasympathetic system of our nervous system, which means we're in a rest and digest state. We're kind of ramping our nervous system back down after being in that excited or sympathetic state. So the cool down, the main 2 components that I usually incorporate into my cool downs are static stretching and breathing. So the cool down could include some similar components to the warm-up. It could include like some joint mobility. I do that often. It includes like tuning into your body. You could do some like mobility work in the cool down as well. I generally find that I just want my cool down to feel fairly relaxing. So I usually choose 1 to 3 stretches or joint mobility exercises, and then I do a little bit of breathing. X Chevet asked, is stretching before a workout good for hypertrophy? Not necessarily. I don't think stretching per se is going to affect your hypertrophy. Gavin, you said what types of cool downs do you suggest for people, lighter people or people who don't usually lift, aka beginners? I suggest, depends, like what workout would you be doing, Gavin? Are you talking about a beginner to strength training, or what is the workout that you're doing? So the importance of the breathing in the cool downs, this is something that people often skip, but I think it's really important. Breathing can have a large effect on your mobility. It can have a large effect on anxiety. It can have a large effect on your ability to relax your muscles, your ability to tune into your core. It can be really helpful to just kind of clear your mind. So I highly recommend breathing as part of the cool down. Usually the type of breathing that I do, just called nasal belly breathing. So exactly what it sounds like. You close your mouth, breathe in and out through your nose, that's the nasal part, and then you're thinking of expanding your belly as you inhale and collapsing the belly as you exhale. So that's the belly part. So you just take nice relaxing breaths, breathing in and out through the nose, inflating and deflating the belly. It could be as little as, 5 to 10 slow, relaxed breaths, or up to, 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on what you have time for. It can be a little bit hard. It's kind of like meditating, can be a little hard to get yourself to do it. But once you do it regularly, I think you will really see a benefit from it. I know that it's helped me a lot. Okay, so I'm going to touch on what I touched on at the beginning again, because I think some people missed it. Why are warm-ups and cool-downs important? So your warm-up is important because it's preparing your body to do what it's going to do. You're kind of bringing your body into a more excited state, into that sympathetic nervous system state. Your warm-ups are going to improve your performance, reduce your injury risk, help you get your mind right, and help you tune into your body and check in with maybe what's the appropriate thing for you to do today, if you need to make adjustments to your workout, depending on if something is kind of having a little bit of nagging stiffness or discomfort, or if your energy is low. The warm-up is that time to get in tune with your body and see how you're feeling. Hi, Son of God. Hi, random video. Thanks for joining. The cool down is to help you return to that parasympathetic state, or the rest and digest state, to kind of speed your recovery for your next workout, to encourage that rest and recovery, recalibrate for the rest of your day, as opposed to if you go from like kind of intense workout right into like a work meeting, say, and you're kind of like still amped up. That probably won't help you as much as taking a few minutes to do that cool down, get yourself back to a calmer state of mind, a calmer place for your nervous system. And again, the cool down is also a time to tune into your body once again. Okay, so that was kind of what you missed if you weren't here at the very beginning. Xchevet, you asked, what's the best 2 body part combination for weeks? I'm not sure what that means. If you could clarify what that means. Not really sure what you're meaning there. Gavin, you said, what would you suggest for an aerobic exercise? If you're warming up for aerobic exercise, I would recommend, similar to what I recommend here as far as warm-up components, I would recommend getting your heart rate up and warming the body, maybe with a little bit of skipping, slow jogging, or cycling, something to get your heart rate up, and then doing a little bit of joint mobility, or maybe a little bit of mobility where you're just moving your joints through range of motion. For example, like circles for the arms, cross body, maybe do a little bit of neck mobility, essentially checking in with your joints and seeing how they're feeling before you start that aerobic exercise. Rusty Gear, you asked how to squat if you have bowed legs. I can't really recommend for a specific condition without having more information. That would be irresponsible for me to say because I don't know exactly what you're experiencing. Sajith said, what exercise would I do for fat loss? Sajith, it's going to be more important to take a look at your diet if you're interested in losing fat than the exact exercises to do. Any type of exercise can aid in fat loss. I do recommend strength training as the best bang for your buck. Sorry about that. I had to block that person. Okay, so the best bang for your buck for fat loss is strength training, in my opinion, and taking a look at your diet, start tracking your food, and then seeing what small changes you can make. Okay, we had another question here. Son of Goddess, how do I start calisthenics? I'm assuming you're asking. How do you start calisthenics? Well, it depends on which exercises are you looking to do. And then break them down to simpler components. So one of the easiest ways you can start calisthenics is start working on body weight exercises like push-ups, squats, lunges, building strength there, and then you can start to progress towards more advanced exercises. You're welcome, Gavin. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks Sajith, for subscribing. Kenneth Williams, yes, skipping rope is great. I actually really enjoy skipping rope as part of a warm-up, so that is definitely a good one. I'm glad to hear that, Avery. Let me know if you have any other questions. Okay, so we talked about why the warm-ups and cool-downs are important. We talked about the components of warm-up and cool-down, and we'll go through a little bit of a sample of a warm-up that I like to do, and a sample of a cool-down, some of the exercises I like to include. Hi Prakash, thanks for the love from India. Appreciate you being here. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so let's go through a few things that this is kind of a basic outline. Oh no, my tripod is getting out of whack. Okay, so here's a few things that I usually include in the warm-ups I do before my kettlebell workouts. So if you guys don't know, I teach kettlebell programs and classes inside the Kettlebell Solo membership, and that's the main style of strength training that I do. It's a main form of working out I do these days. So what I normally do when I start off, and feel free to follow along with me, is I usually start with a little bit of neck mobility. So I'll tuck my chin down, look up, and I'll do this as slow as I need or as slow as feels comfortable. Usually between 5 and 10 reps. I'm going to go through it a little bit faster today, just so for brevity's sake. Then I might do a little look over the shoulder. Again, about 5 to 10 reps. And then I like to do like ear to shoulder. Just a way to start tuning in to my body. And then I like to do a little chicken double chin. Okay, and then I might move on to the shoulder. So I might do some shoulder rolls. Okay, just thinking about moving my scapular muscles, all those muscles around my shoulders and my upper back. And of course, reversing the direction there. Good, then I might move down to pelvic tilt. So this is one of my favorite exercises I like to do. So a little bend in the knees, and then I'm just tilting the pelvis back and forth, really going to prepare you well for any exercise that you're doing. The glutes stay relaxed here. You're activating your lower back and your lower abdomen. Start to get your core fired up and ready to go for your workout. Good. Then I might do some joint mobility for lower body. So I might do some like lower leg circles. This is a good one to both hit the hip, the knee, and the ankle. So I'm circling the ankle as I'm circling from the knee and from the hip, both directions. It's also a balance challenge, so you may want to hold on to something. Good. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Lower leg circle, knee circle, ankle circle. You might get some snap, crackle, pop, which is okay as long as there's no pain when you're cracking and popping. It's usually not indicative of anything too dangerous. Okay, so once I've moved through a few basic joint mobility exercises like I just did, I'll usually do some preparatory reps. Like for example, if I'm incorporating deadlifts, I might do some hinging where I'm stretching out the back of my legs and just preparing my body for the exercise that I'm gonna do and checking in with my body before I add any weight to the exercise. Okay, and then I might move into some squats. Again, same idea. If I'm going to be doing squats, I'm preparing my body for that squat. Or if I'm going to be doing like a split squat, I might do those split squats instead. Again, this is going to be tailored to whatever the workout is that I'm doing. So I'm generally going to be using exercises that mimic whatever I'm working on that day. And okay, so then I may do a little bit more like ankle mobility. So I might do some calf raises to warm up my feet, my ankles, and my lower legs. Okay, and that might be it for my warm-up. That might be it. If that doesn't warm you up, maybe you go through a second set, or you could add some activation exercises. I mentioned to you I really like using a band for activation exercises. Hey, Toby, thanks for making it. I appreciate that. Let me grab my band, I'll show you. Okay, so one example, this is just one example of a muscle activation exercise that you can do. There's plenty of other ones. Again, it depends on what you're working on, but this is one that I like to do if I've got like a lower body day to really activate my glutes. So I'll do a set with like bent knees, and then I'll usually do a set with straight legs, and this is really going to fire up the hips and the glutes. You could also use a band to do a little muscle activation for your back and for your shoulders. Okay, you could also add mobility drills if you're working on specific areas of your mobility. Then this is a time where you could add that in. So if you guys have questions on warm-ups and what you should include in your warm-up, let me know. Let me take a look and see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Prakash said, Prakash injured his back doing heavy deadlifts. How can I fix lower back pain? That's a good question. I can't give you the exact solution for you, of course, because I don't have enough information about your injury, okay? But that being said, my general guidance would be, first, you want to get out of pain as best you can. So doing gentle, pain-free movement that respects your body's boundaries and limitations. I would never push through pain or force into a range of motion that your nervous system feels like you feel afraid to go, because that's probably going to prolong your pain and discomfort. So being able to learn what your body is telling you where it doesn't want you to go, respecting that, and work in the ranges that you have access to pain-free as you go through the recovery process. I think when you heal and you're getting back to your normal routine, you want to really make sure that you're progressing appropriately. I think all too often with something like deadlifts, people try to push the weight too far too fast before they've fully mastered the technique, before they've really given their body enough time to adapt. I also don't recommend going really heavy with your weight on any exercises unless that's really a goal of yours or you're a power lifter, but you don't really need to push your weight very heavy to get benefit. Working towards like a max effort or 1 rep max, I would not recommend for you if you're focusing just on health and longevity, because the risks of injuring yourself really go up. And also I would recommend, Prakash, doing pelvic tilts, practicing pelvic tilts slow and gentle to help you move that area and to help you strengthen your lower abdominals. Let's see if we got any other questions here. Oh, Toby, you bent Nederlands. That's cool. Okay, south to west. You said, what level of discomfort would cause you to decide not to do a workout versus when you decide to push through it? That is a great question. So I would say if if you're pushing, and if there's any kind of like pain or stiffness that is, I would say first and foremost, you probably want to avoid doing, like say if your shoulder, okay, your shoulder is feeling like uncomfortable and stiff, okay, and you're like, should I work out? I would recommend at the very least, do a lower body workout and give your shoulder some time, because pushing through it never really helps. Like forcing it, if you think about forcing it in any relationship, whether it's with a person, with an activity, with your body, forcing it never really leads to anything good. So I would say if you feel like you have to push through it, it's probably not worth it. It's probably better to do some other kind of gentle exercise, like taking a walk or an easy bike ride, than trying to push through it and work out anyway. Those are my thoughts on that. Oh, God. Okay. I appreciate that, Toby. Any other questions on warm-ups? And then I'm going to talk through some of my favorite cool-down exercises. Oh, yeah. Toby said, agreed, I've had the neck hernia to prove it. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's very often that we push through because there's a lot of messaging in the fitness world of you need to work out every day. You need to work out 5 days a week. You need to push through it. Give it 110% effort. Unfortunately, I think a lot of those messages are unhealthy. I think what would better serve us in health is to learn to listen to the messages that our body is sending and to respect them. And sometimes that's not going to be fun, because it might mean you need to skip a few workouts, or you need to take a few weeks to recalibrate. Maybe it means you need to work on the things that you're not working on, like your mobility or your flexibility, or areas where you're compensating. And that can be much more difficult to fix, because it's not as easy as just an exercise. It requires introspection, it requires focus, it requires presence, and sometimes silence with yourself, and that's difficult for many of us to do, but oh so beneficial in the long run. Appreciate you checking in, Toby. Thanks for joining. Sam asked, I have quite bad shoulder pain from multiple sports as well as a gym, so what can I do to help warm up and stretch my shoulders to help ease the pain? So Sam, my biggest recommendation for you with having shoulder pain is figuring out what ranges of motion can you move your shoulder in pain-free, and focus on that. And I would highly recommend don't push into areas of pain. Find ways where you can move pain-free. For example, if we're doing this like a shoulder roll like this, if you're finding that you're experiencing pain in a certain range, maybe when you go back here, maybe you're going to limit and go up, down, okay? Maybe you're going to go, okay, is up, down, okay? Okay, that hurts a little bit at the top. Maybe I'm going to reduce my range of motion, okay? I'm going to just limit the range of motion to where it's pain-free, okay? And similarly, okay, if I do a shoulder circle, oh, it starts hurting up there, okay? But maybe I can go to here without pain, okay? Maybe I can go to here without pain. So I think it's important to continue moving your shoulder in the ranges that are pain-free. I also think you want to take an honest look at what things are contributing to your shoulder pain, okay? And if you know some of those things that are contributing to your shoulder pain, avoid those things, especially during the healing process, okay? Sometimes that sounds really simple, but it can be difficult if you're, if you have certain goals with regards to sports or lifting, but you want to think about the long run. How do you want to feel when you're 80? Do you want to have a frozen shoulder, or do you want to have taken some time off in order to allow your shoulder to heal? I think oftentimes one of the biggest piece of advice I can give for healing an injury is just take some time off. Take some rest. Take some full rest and recovery. You're not going to lose all your fitness in just a couple weeks of rest, but it may do wonders for helping your shoulder to recover. And sometimes that's what people skip. They want to know, what can I do to fix my shoulder? But maybe they haven't even given it time to rest in the first place. Hi, Lucky. Thanks for joining. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for being here. Vincent, you asked, can that advice be used for rotator cuff? Absolutely. I would give the same advice to practically any injury. You're welcome, Sam. Okay. Let me know if you have any other questions. In the meantime, I'm going to talk a little bit about some sample exercises I like to do for cool down. So as you remember, the two, if you were here at the beginning of the chat, I mentioned that the two main things I like to include in my cool down are static stretching and breath work. So for stretching, one basic exercise I like to do is an alternating straight leg stretch. So you could either place your hands on the floor if you're quite flexible, or you could use something like a chair or a ball, and you're just going to bend one knee and straighten the other leg. Okay, and you can do this also in a more narrow stance. It's going to be a little bit more challenging on the hamstrings, but really taking your time, moving nice and slow, starting to breathe in and out through the nose to slow your heart rate down. And for those of you who are Kettlebell Solo members, like Kelly, a lot of these stretches are going to look familiar to you. Okay, another exercise I like to do is a crossover hamstring stretch. So you might cross one leg over the other. This back leg is going to stay nice and straight. And then you reach down again either for the floor or a ball, depending on your flexibility. Okay, so, and how long you hold it, you know, say 30 seconds to a minute. Doesn't need to be super long. We're just trying to gently stretch the body and slow the heart rate down after our workout. Okay, some other stretches I like to do for the upper body, a handcuff stretch to stretch the shoulders. You can also do this with bent elbows or with your palms apart, depending on the flexibility of your chest and your shoulders. Some other stretches I like to do, figure 4 stretch for the hips, okay, and you can hold on to something for balance if you need, but that's going to be a nice one to stretch your glutes and hips out. And then a pec stretch is one of my favorite ones, especially for the guys who have tight upper body from a lot of strength training. Doing a pec stretch, like using something to stretch and open up. You can also do this on the floor. If you're laying down on the floor, you bring one leg over, you can stretch your pecs that way. Another one I like is a lying spinal twist. I find this one really relaxing. So what I do is I just bring my knee in here, and then I bring this arm up and over. You might get a nice snap, crackle, pop on your back when you do that one. So those are a few of my favorite static stretches to do in the cool down. And I will tell you about some breathing drills in a moment here. Deuce said shoulders recover slowly. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, injuries can take time, and injuries can be acute, but usually they're a combination of factors over time. That injury has sort of been building over the years in different ways. Injuries are often caused by imbalances. Some acute injuries are just like if you break your leg because of an impact sport or something, that might be just completely acute. But oftentimes when we hurt ourselves or tweak something during a workout, it's something that's been building over time and something that's been due to some sort of imbalance, whether it's an imbalance in how much you're training versus resting, which is quite common. If it's an imbalance between your strength and your mobility, if it's an imbalance from side to side, all those things can play a role in the injuries that we get. And the recovery time, it always takes longer than we want because we want to be better today. When we get injured today, we want to be better today. But injuries can be a really powerful way to learn about your body and to learn to better give your body what it needs. It can also be a powerful way to appreciate rest and recovery. It can be a powerful way to focus on things that we don't normally focus on during our workouts because we just want to burn calories and get going. It can be a way to slow down and focus on your mobility, your flexibility, muscular activation, working on certain areas that get neglected, etc. You're welcome, Vincent. Thanks for joining. Living Life, you said any for back pain. Are you talking upper or lower back? One of the best things I recommend for back pain is working on your pelvic tilt. Okay, so it starts with just this basic standing position, a little bend in the knees, and working on isolating your pelvis. People are often stuck in one pelvis position. Like I was often kind of like this. A lot of women hang out in this anterior pelvic tilt. What happens is your low back muscles can get really tight. You kind of disconnect from the lower abdominals. if you're stuck kind of in a tucked under position, kind of your abdominals can get kind of chronically tight, and because of that over time they get weak and you're putting kind of more strain on your lower back. So doing pelvic tilts can just build awareness of where your pelvis normally sits, allow you to make adjustments, and it's a great way to connect to and then strengthen your lower abdominals. It's also a great way to just relieve back tension and pain. So if you have back pain, I highly recommend really gentle pelvic tilts. No hard contractions. You're thinking about like a 10 to 20% engagement of the lower back muscles when you lift up the back of your pelvis and your lower abdominals as you tuck under, and then you can slowly move on to different positions. You can do a stagger position, which is going to engage the muscles a little bit differently. You can work towards a hinge position, a little bit more challenging, or a squat position. You can also do a wall squat where you're doing pelvic tilts and you can kind of use the wall to push into. So that's the number one exercise I would recommend if you're experiencing back pain or stiffness. Alpha Vision said, how to grow some thick glutes, I'm guessing. Train consistently and make sure to train your upper body and your glutes. Make sure that you know how to contract your glutes in the different exercises that you're doing. Slow tempo, I think, is really helpful. Hey, Paul asked, what would you include in diet for joints? Paul, I think for your diet, as far as your joints go, I think that incorporating high quality proteins and fats are going to be important. So plenty of protein and fat is good for your joints. Suvik, yes, I am talking about fitness. You said you were doing shoulder exercises. Why is your knee hurting? I don't know. Good question. Why do you think your knee was hurting, if you have any idea? Debashish asked, what pre-workout do you take? I don't take any pre-workout personally. I don't want any of that. Yes, Kelly. Kelly says, I think the pelvic tilt is the best for back pain. Absolutely. Kelly's been doing the pelvic tilt consistently for over a year, and it's helped her with her back pain. So take it. If you don't want to take it from me, take it from Kelly. You're welcome, Paul. Anish asks, is push-pull leg two times a week bad for recovery as a beginner? Anish, are you asking, do you train 2 times a week, or are you doing all of that push, pull, and leg each 2 times a week? How many times per week are you training? Any other questions before I show you some breathing exercises? I'll just answer a niche question as best I can based on what you posted here. I think 2 times a week is, again, it depends on the intensity and how, okay, push, pull, leg, push, pull, leg. Anish, in my opinion, 6 days a week is probably a bit too much, but it depends, like, do you feel recovered from your last workout by the time you do your next workout? It depends also on your age, your stress level, what you have the ability to recover from. So if you feel fully recovered to do the next workout, you could do that. I generally don't recommend strength training 6 days a week because I think it's unnecessary. If you really like training 6 days a week, you could do shorter, less intense workouts 6 days a week to make sure that you actually are recovered. But I think something that I've learned, especially in the last 5 years, is that your results that you see and experience are only going to be as good as your ability to recover. So personally, I used to work out 6 days a week for like 2 or 3 hours as a personal trainer and doing all the things I did in different gyms. I looked strong, but I was also a bit puffy because I was overtraining. When I scaled that down to only training 2 days a week and doing just daily like walking or a few push-ups, when I scaled it back to just like 2 workouts a week, I actually got way more muscle tone and felt way stronger and saw more benefits than when I was doing 6 days a week. So maybe something you want to experiment with, Anish, and try like cutting it down and seeing, do you feel better? Do you have more energy for each workout? Do you feel like you start seeing more results if you allow yourself more time to recover? So that's something you could experiment with. Frisco 9, you said, what are your thoughts on Kegels? I don't know if that's a serious question or not, but it could be a helpful exercise to strengthen the pelvic floor for women, depending on if they're doing it correctly. Akash said, I don't even rest, I work out even Sunday. Well, Akash, I would challenge you to ask yourself, why do you work out every day? And to ask yourself, is this the best routine for me? And see, what's the authentic answer that comes up. Maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no. That's okay, Frisco 9. I just have to check because there's weird questions being asked. If your wife is experiencing challenges with her pelvic floor, I would highly recommend her to reach out to a pelvic floor therapist. I'm not an expert on that, but I've heard that Kegels can be detrimental depending on what the issue is that a woman is experiencing with her pelvic floor. So I wouldn't just start doing Kegels and imagine it's a fix-all. I would highly recommend she chat with a pelvic floor specialist and ask them with regards to what she's experiencing. Soulmate asks, how do I get rid of the inner thighs? Soulmate, you don't want to get rid of your inner thighs. Then you'd have like half a leg. As far as that question goes, you can't spot reduce fat. So there's no way to target your inner thighs to lose fat. Our bodies are different. We tend to hold fat in different places. Like I know that I tend to gain or lose fat, or I tend to like gain fat on my legs if I gain fat, and that's just how it is. I can't spot reduce. If you want to lose body fat, the best thing to do is start by tracking your food without changing anything and make small adjustments. If you're talking about how to strengthen your inner thighs, then there's lots of different exercises you could do to strengthen inner thighs, including adduction work where you're squeezing in with the legs, and doing general leg training exercises like deadlifts, split squats, etc. Yeah, Absolute makes a good point that you have to do reverse Kegels, or you have to learn to both relax and contract the pelvic floor. Otherwise, if you just are trying to tighten the pelvic floor, some people have a tight pelvic floor and that could make it worse. So you have to learn both to relax and contract in order to be able to utilize a full range of motion. Chet Goodsprings asked, can I lose 6 pounds in a week? I run on a treadmill. You can lose 6 pounds in a week, but it depends. What's your goal? Do you want to lose weight and keep it off, or do you want to lose weight and gain it back? I would highly recommend taking a slow approach to fat loss and weight loss. I think 6 pounds in a week is a lot. I would aim for more like a pound a week, because you want to be able to, what you're doing should be sustainable in the long run. If you want lasting results, you need to be consistent over a long period of time. Think, can I do this for the next 5 years? If you can't, it's unsustainable. It's not going to get you the results that you want. Hey, Jez, thanks for joining. You're welcome, Soulmate. Hope it helped. Hey, YouTube Punk, thanks for joining us. Black Betty, you said, what's the exercise equipment you have in the corner? Looks interesting. Are you talking about this? You're talking about my cat tree. That's my cat tree. I don't exercise on that, but my cats do. This here is a stall bar, and it also has a pull-up attachment, pull-up dip bar attachment up there, which the rings are attached to. But you can do a lot of cool strength and mobility exercises with this. I am planning to do some lives on this pretty soon, just showing what you can do with the stall bar. Absolute said you have to remember when you're losing lots of weight quickly, it's usually muscle rather than fat. Yeah, it can be muscle, water weight. It's not the best thing to lose weight super quickly. And yes, if you build muscle, your weight can go up. That is true. Yeah, it's a cat tree in the corner. Sorry. No, you're not dumb. It's just like you expected. We're talking about fitness. You expected it was a exercise. I thought you were talking about this thing. Anish, she said, is there a breathing pattern while doing compound lifts, like when to inhale and exhale? Generally, you're going to exhale through the sticking point or the harder parts of the lift. So for example, on a squat, if you were doing, say you were doing a squat to press, you're talking about compound lift. So you would usually inhale and engage the core muscles as you go down, and then you would exhale as you go up. Take a pause, inhale, and then exhale as you press. Okay, so that would be my general advice on breathing for compound lifts. Yes, my cat is living life lavishly. My cats live a great life. They are very spoiled. They get great food. YouTube Punk said moving the cat tree is a workout. That cat tree is actually very light, surprisingly. It's very, very light, which is nice because it makes it easy to move. You're welcome, Anish. Okay, let's go over, before I answer any more questions, let's go over some of the breathing exercises that I enjoy, because I'm assuming, I could be wrong, I'm assuming you guys don't really do a lot of breathing exercises, okay? Because a lot of people don't, but it's a great thing to add into your cool down. I highly recommend it. Okay, so the first one that I like to do is called the crocodile breath. So all of these breathing styles are going to be nasal belly breathing, which I mentioned earlier in the live, which is breathe in and out through your nose, inflate your belly on the inhale, deflate your belly on the exhale. Okay, so the crocodile breath is where you're going to make a little platform with your hands, and you're going to rest your head. And in that position, you'll do your nasal belly breathing. And that's a good one because your belly is pressed into the floor. You get to really relax your head onto your hands. As you inhale, you can kind of feel your belly pressing into the floor or lifting you up and away from the floor. And then as you collapse, sinking down into the floor. So it gives you a little bit of physical feedback there. The next style of cool down breathing that I like to do is called the cobra breath. Okay, so you're going to be like up on your forearms, okay, cobra position, or similar to a cobra position if you do yoga, okay. I have all this stuff behind here that's blocking my feet, but ideally, just a nice relaxed position. As you inhale, you kind of think of lifting your chest. As you exhale, sinking into that stretch, okay. Again, breathing in and out through the nose, and you get some more of that feedback as your belly presses into the floor. This next one, you would do with a light kettlebell. Okay, so you would take your kettlebell and you're going to lay that kettlebell on your tummy, and as you breathe in, the kettlebell is going to lift, and as you exhale, the kettlebell is going to drop. So this is like a strength training exercise for your breathing pattern. Okay, so that's another good one. And then lastly, probably the most common one that I do is just a nasal belly breath, where I just lay down in a relaxed position. I place my hands on my tummy and I feel my belly inflate as I inhale and deflate as I exhale. So those are 4 simple positions that you can use for your breathing in the cool down. And again, that breathing is important. Number 1, it connects you to your core. Number 2, it helps you tune into your body. Number 3, it's great for your mental state. Number 4, it brings you to that rest and digest parasympathetic state, gets you ready for whatever else you have to tackle in your day. So highly recommend doing at least 5 to 10 breaths at the very end of your cool down. Let's see. Absolutely. You said Wim Hof is the only breathing I do. Wim Hof breathing has its benefits, but Wim Hof breathing is like more of an excitatory breath in a lot of ways. So I would say it's maybe not as relaxing as this style of breathing is more of just relax. Chet Goodsprings, I wouldn't be advising you on losing 6 pounds in a week because it's not something I would advise. So you're on your own there if that's something you want to do. Thanks, Elena. You're welcome. Thank you for being here and watching. The kettlebell breathing feels really good, and if you've never tried it, highly recommend trying it. Light kettlebell. Hi Chit, thanks for joining. Hi Gulam, thanks for being here. Let me know if you have any questions on warm-ups and cool-downs today, or any other questions about kettlebell training or working out. You know, I feel like the sun is really changing this room, and I have to figure out how to keep better lighting here because it's getting dark. It's getting dark on camera. I might have to get my lights up here. I'm glad to hear you're the most powerful guy, Umer. Congratulations. Yeah, so if you guys have questions about like where I live or how old I am, I don't answer those questions because that's not necessarily something I want to share on a live where there's a lot of random people. So for my own privacy and security, I don't answer those questions. I'm also not going to respond to political comments because that has nothing to do with this live. Sounds good, Jez. Umer, I do fitness and kettlebell content. Any other questions about warm-ups and cool-downs or kettlebell training? YouTube Punk asked duration of warm-ups and cool-downs. That's a good question. Depends on what you have time for, of course. So they don't necessarily have to be super long. I would say your warm-up could be as short as 5 to 10 minutes, or it could be up to like 30 or 45 minutes if you're including like activation mobility and you have time for it. And depending, of course, how much energy you have, how long your workout is. Your cool-down, again, could be anywhere from like 5 to 15 minutes or so. So it doesn't necessarily have to be super long. Hi, Yassine. Thanks for joining. And in case you didn't see this already, I'm going live tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. Yes, it's Halloween, and we're going to be doing an upper body and core workout. So if you want to join me for that, make sure you have a light to moderate weight kettlebell with you. We're going to do that tomorrow during the live. Hi, Rox. Thanks for joining from India. Appreciate you being here. Madam Hill, you asked what's the benefit for the exercises? What does it require? Which exercise? Do you mean specifically the warm-ups and cool-downs, or did you mean something else? Elena, yes, I love suggestions. Absolutely, you can do loaded stretching with the kettlebell. That is definitely something you can do. I will add that to the list of suggestions. I appreciate it. Loaded stretching is a great way to improve mobility. That being said, you probably want to have a base level of flexibility and mobility with body weight before you start adding weight because, of course, it becomes more complex. Umer, you asked how much walk per day is enough. You walk 4 to 5 kilometers a day. That varies per person. I don't have a specific amount. I think if you walk every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, that's awesome and will give you benefit. Madam Hill, you said it's your first time here. We're just talking about warm-ups and cool-downs today, so we're going over the benefits that has. Like, they're both an opportunity to check in with your body. Warming up helps you improve your performance, reduce your injury risk, and cool-downs are a way to bring yourself kind of back to a baseline so you can start recovering for your next workout. As far as kettlebell training, which is the main thing I talk about on this channel, in addition to just strength training, calisthenics, stuff you can do on cool tools like this, there's a lot of benefits in terms of your physical health, but also your mental health as well. YouTube Punk, if your kettlebell doesn't have a pumpkin paint job tomorrow, I'm unsubbing. That sounds like a threat. I don't think I want to draw on any of my kettlebells, but I do have an orange one. Maybe if I do, I'll have to see if I put like whiteboard marker if it will come off easily or not. Anish, you said what's good for shoulder warm-up, the rotator cuff ones. Some of my favorite shoulder warm-ups are simply just shoulder circles, chicken wings, and like a little goal post here, or the Egyptian internal, external rotation of the shoulder. Those are a few of my favorite shoulder warm-ups. Deuce said you can easily walk 10 kilometers per day. You know, I think giving an exact amount, I don't do that because I don't know what's going on in somebody's life and what they're able to recover from. So for some people, doing 10 kilometers a day would be way too much and they'd be exhausted. So that may work for some people and not work for others. You're welcome, Elena. Thank you for your suggestion. I appreciate that, Umar. Thanks for joining. Yassine says he walks 15 kilometers a day. Nice. Yeah, I agreed. YouTube Punk walking is nice, especially after a meal. Madam Hill, yes, absolutely. Older people can lift kettlebells and strength train and get a lot of benefits from it. Jez walks after meals to help digestion. Absolutely. YouTube Punk, I don't know what that exercise is actually called. I just like to call it the Egyptian because it kind of looks like you're doing like a little dance move while you're doing it. Umar asked, what's the ball? What are its advantages? This ball, you could do a lot of different things with the ball. I mean, as simple as like you could put it overhead and use it as a weight, or it has sand in it, so it kind of moves around. But you could also do core exercises on it. You know, you could do like a plank hold with your arms on it and do stirring the cauldron. You could put your legs on it and do a plank hold. You could do knee tucks, pike ups, a lot of different things you could do with a ball. I mostly just sit on it, honestly. Yassine said, what do you think of Pilates? I think Pilates is good. You know, I don't do a lot of Pilates, so I don't know that much about the Pilates system of training, but I think it can have a lot of benefit. Yes, walk like an Egyptian, exactly. Yeah, Umar, you can find a lot of different balls kind of similar to this where they have sand in it. Some of them don't have sand, but they're also useful. You can do similar things with it. James, you said, is it good for bodybuilding? This ball? Not necessarily. I'd say bodybuilding is usually done with machines and dumbbells, so that's probably what most people use for bodybuilding. But you could use it for like core exercises for if you're doing bodybuilding. I'm glad that you find Pilates helpful, Yassine. That's great. Yeah, I have looked into it a bit, but it's not a huge interest for me. Any other questions or requests for next week? I had one good request for loaded stretching, what kind of loaded stretching you can do. Umar said, tell me about a diet to build muscles. Probably the main thing you're going to want to take a look at there, Umar, is adding enough protein into your diet. So making sure that you're taking in enough protein to build muscle. I generally aim for about 1 gram per pound of body weight, but I don't always exactly hit that, but somewhere around there is an average for my weekly intake. I do highly recommend tracking it, because without tracking it and weighing what you're eating, it's really hard to know what you're actually taking in. So that would be my recommendation if you're really serious about building muscle. James, you said, I'm currently on carnivore diet. What do you recommend? James, what do I recommend as with regards to diet or I personally don't really, I don't take any like creatine or any supplements like that. I take like some vitamins, vitamin C and things like that, but I don't really take supplements. I don't give exact advice on diet because I'm not a dietitian, so none of this should be taken as professional advice. I just share what works for me. I personally don't believe in diets that completely eliminate entire food groups like the carnivore diet. I think it probably could work for a while and work well for a while because you're eliminating a lot of things that often have, you know, things that can be irritating to the body or things that have a lot of toxins like some grains and things like that that can really irritate the body. But I don't think it's a long-term solution. I think long-term, like your gut needs certain starches and vegetables in order to be healthy. So I personally don't subscribe to something like a carnivore diet. I think it's important to eat vegetables, at least to a certain degree. That's my personal opinion and been my experience. I have toyed with the idea of doing the carnivore diet, but have also worked with dietitians who have said that that's not a good idea for long-term health. May work for a period of time, but not long-term. So ideally, I think many of us these days are dealing with some kind of gut permeability, some level of leaky gut because of, especially if you're in the US, there's a lot of toxins in our food. And so taking measures to heal your gut and to heal those holes in your intestinal permeability so that you can better tolerate different kinds of foods. Ideally, your gut health is so robust you can handle most anything in moderation. But unfortunately, many of us have so much inflammation or toxins that we're dealing with that can be difficult. Let's see, Fan Jackie asks, how many pull-ups can you do? Probably about 10. Yassine said, how many years have you been practicing sports? I started running track and field when I was 14. So I've been doing it for quite a long time. Let's see. No, Alhoot, I don't do OnlyFans. No. Let's see. I'm not going to answer where you're from. I prefer not to share that on a live like this. James, you do occasionally eat sauerkraut. All right, that's something. James, you said knee issues or joint issues. What is your question there? Is your question what you can do for it? Okay, Chris, you said, what are the best exercises to lose weight with bad knees? Well, the good news is losing weight has far less to do with any exercise than it does with your diet. So if you're trying to lose weight, my number one recommendation to anybody asking, how do I lose weight or lose body fat? There's no specific exercise that's going to do it for you. Besides, download a tracking app, track your food for at least 2 weeks without changing anything, and then start to make small changes because fat loss and weight loss is very much based on your diet. And if you're not tracking, you do not have an honest idea of what you're eating. And I say this having started tracking seriously for the first time a couple years ago, and my diet was way off from what I thought it was. My head was saying, well, I eat plenty of protein, I do this, my diet's great. And then when I tracked it, I was like, whoa, that is not what I thought was happening. So highly recommend that you try tracking. Deefy, I don't really think anything of David Beckham. Yes, James, I ran track and field. I don't have any knee or joint issues, but I didn't do it at a very high level. No, I didn't have any joint or knee issues from that, but I have a little bit of joint pain from overdoing it on mobility training and exercise in the gym. So, you know, overdoing anything can cause some knee or joint pain for sure. Hi, Dolly. Thanks for joining from Russia. Deuce said avoid energy-dense foods. I disagree with that. I think energy-dense foods can be very healthy for you, so it's not just based on the number of calories. Some energy-dense food actually has a lot of nutrition that is really healthy for you. Thanks, Elena. Yassine, you said, I love eating meat, especially lamb. Yes, I'm a fan of meat too. YouTube Punk said, chiropractor? You know, some people really swear by a chiropractor. I personally have had a lot of benefit from when I had the neck injury I had. I worked with a cervical chiropractor and that was helpful for me. But other than that, I don't know. I'm not really sure if chiropractic is. I've heard for some people it's really helpful. I think like anything, it could be really helpful for some, maybe doesn't do much for others. Just really depends. Paul, you asked, are there specific exercises with kettlebells that cover stability, flexibility, and mobility, preferably all three in each exercise? There's a lot of exercises that work on your stability, flexibility, and mobility. A lot of strength training exercises improve your mobility, flexibility, and stability. So absolutely there are. One example I could give you, one simple example, is something like a stagger stance deadlift with front legs straight and where you go slow with tempo, okay? And I'm doing like a narrow stance, so this is going to work your stability and your balance, but it's also going to work your mobility and flexibility, especially going slow is going to help you build strength through the entire range of motion. So that's one example, but there are many. Rusty Gear, you said diet if you're tight on money. Ooh, that is really hard these days because, as everybody knows, groceries are not cheap. If you're tight, that is tough because getting high quality protein can be quite expensive, but I would say you just get the best quality that you can afford. I think eggs are one way that you can get a good amount of protein. Even if you're not buying the highest quality eggs, I think that's, I think eggs, I'm trying to think what other, I think just getting like beef, the best quality of beef you could afford. I think eggs, beef, and then adding in some veggies and fruit maybe. Yeah, Deuce, you said oil and grease is highest energy amount. And some oils have a lot of benefit, and some really fatty foods have a lot of benefit. For example, certain cuts of beef that have a decent amount of tallow in them are actually quite healthy, in my opinion. Yes, James, I've heard of knees over toes guy. Thanks, Dolly. YouTube Punk makes a good point. Yogurt and cottage cheese, those are some good sources of protein. Deuce, you're asking most fat people eat healthy. I'm not sure what you're trying to ask. But again, you have a nice day, James, as well. No, Nevedone, I don't take any supplements or gear besides like a supplement I take to support my adrenals and like vitamin C. That's about it. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this live now. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your questions. Be sure to join me tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time for upper body and core workout. Bring a light to moderate kettlebell and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining me today.